today's video, I'm gonna explain how to log in a way that you've never heard before. So if you feel like you need to log in for your goals, maybe the upcoming tournaments, then log in for this video right now. Like you're probably getting distracted already. Maybe you're scrolling through the comments, or you want to put this video as background noise while you do something else. But if you make this video full screen and pay attention, if you log in, then your life will never be the same. Now let's begin at the beginning. Since the dawn of time, everything in the universe is made out of energy. So this box right here represents the entire universe. And everything inside this box is either energy or the result of energy. Now you probably learned about energy in school, and you know that energy is a wavelength like this. And there are many different forms of energy like light, heat, sound, electricity, and many other forms. But this video is not just gonna be a boring physics lesson. We're gonna talk about how we use energy to get certain results. And one result that you are after right now is to go pro in Fortnite Competitive. But to achieve this goal, this certain result, we're gonna need energy. And so what basically happens is that over time, you use your available energy to build up certain results. And we will return to this page later on in this video. So I hope you now understand why energy is so important. Because without energy, you're never gonna go pro. So what is energy? Well, Wikipedia gives you a very complicated answer.
Energy is the quantitative property that is transferred to a body or physical system, recognizable in the performance of work and in the form of heat and light.
Now Britannica gives you a more simple answer.
Energy in physics is the capacity for doing work.
And what instantly popped in my mind when I saw this is that hard work, working hard for your goals, is the same as grinding. And that's why it makes sense that we need energy to do hard work and to grind. But my definition is even simpler, because fundamentally, what is a lamp? We can have all of these fancy definitions, but a lamp is something that creates light. Something that creates light. So what is energy? Energy is something that creates results. Now in physics, there are two main rules of energy that can never be broken. Rule number one is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy can only be transformed from one form to another. And the second rule is that energy in equals energy out. So let's say we're trying to use our energy to build a certain result. Then what happens is you put this energy into the results. And then at this point right here, you will notice, okay, there are 0 results. Results are at the all-time low. And then available energy is at an all-time high. So this is like 100% basically. And at this point right here, we have 50% of the available energy left, and exactly the other 50% is transformed into the results that you want. And then eventually you will have 0 energy left and you have everything transformed into the result. But I hope it makes sense that energy cannot just disappear out of the universe. It can only be transformed from one form to another. Now, I wanted to show you how energy can be transformed from one form to another. So right here we see the sun. And the sun is projecting heat and light. And then we can have plants with green leaves that can turn the energy from the sun into calories. You probably learned about this process in biology. It's called photosynthesis. And then when someone consumes this apple, and I know this is a low quality picture, but if you eat an apple or eat any type of food, you basically consume all of those calories. And then you have something called chemical energy inside your system. And you can use that energy, you can burn it to, for instance, play Fortnite Competitive and do competitive gaming and train Kovacs. And this is how energy can be transformed all the way from sunlight into a thing like your skill of aiming in Kovacs. And your skill of aiming is a result of energy. So for instance, this high score right here, that is a result. This result did not come out of nowhere. You used energy to get that result. Now, if we define winning in life as having the results that you want, then managing your energy becomes very important. And that is why I made this video, because I came up with the 3 rules of energy management. Now, on number 1, we have never give your energy away without a good reason. The second rule is gather as much energy as possible. Now, rule number 3 is use focus to create the right results. And all of these rules have nuances, by the way. So you're not gonna stuff your face with cake to get as many calories as possible. That doesn't make sense. You don't have to take it to its extreme, but in general, gathering energy is smart. Now, most people fail at rule number 1. Never give your energy away without a good reason. So they have low energy to begin with because they are bad at managing their energy, and then they still waste that low amount of energy that they have on things like porn, chess, smoking weed, and social media. Now, failure of rule number 2, gather as much energy as possible. So when you don't do healthy habits like exercise and drinking water or eating healthy food, then you're gonna be left with a low amount of energy, because you're not gathering energy. These things will charge up your body, like an actual battery, right? And failure of rule number 3, use focus to create the right results. So there was a point where I was grinding Fortnite Competitive, but I was distracted with playing chess. And I reached 1700 in ELO, actually 1750 in my highest point. And that basically means I'm a top 1% chess player as well. But my main goal was to go pro in Fortnite Competitive, and so I realized that chess was a distraction, and I had to use focus to create the right results, and chess was not the result that I wanted. Now, what successful people do is they have a high amount of energy to begin with, and then they use all of that energy and put it into one thing. For instance, Fortnite Competitive. And that is why they make so much progress in this one specific area of life, because you use your energy to create certain results. But most people divide their energy on multiple different things. So you can use your energy to, get a high school diploma and work on school and study. Or you can use your energy to play Fortnite Competitive, play scrims and kovacs and, improve in the game. Or you can choose another game as well, like Clash Royale. But the process of locking in is basically removing one of these aspects of your life. So you have more energy that you put into one specific thing. And that is basically the definition of focus. Focus is nothing else but bundled energy. And locking in is basically having a period where you focus on one thing. So having bundled energy that you're putting into one specific thing. So you basically remove how much energy you waste on another aspect of your life and you put it into the thing that you care about most. And that is why we need to talk about setting priorities. Now, to create a priority list, I suggest you work backwards. So you picture your life without that specific thing. So if you try to picture your life without health, well, you probably don't even have a life without health, right? You're gonna be dead. Or you're gonna be sick at least, and your life is gonna be terrible. So you can't really live without health. So it's a number 1 priority, right? Now, another important thing in your life could be your relationships. So without other people in your life can become empty and lonely, and you don't want that to happen. So maybe your relationships are important to you. Another one could be school, to give you safety, a better future, whatever. And then another priority is Fortnite Competitive. You want to go pro in this game, it is your dream. You can't try to picture your life without it, you could maybe just go to school and, have your relationships and have your health, but you really care about Fortnite, and without it, your life also becomes pretty empty. And then we have Clash Royale. Maybe you just love this video game of Clash Royale. It's basically like chess, and you just love playing that game. You don't really care about it as much as Fortnite Competitive, but it's still a fun game. And then there's watching pornography, and you can actually picture your life without it. Because to be honest, if you don't watch porn, your life is actually gonna be better than before. Whereas with your health, if you don't have health, then your life is gonna be significantly worse. So if you're not a passive learner and you are an action taker, then you're gonna take out a piece of paper right now and write down your priority list. So try to picture your life without certain aspects like health, relationships, school, and any other thing that you spend your energy on right now. Now, sometimes we can scrap the bottom of the list, like Clash Royale and watching porn. You don't really care about these things as much as the other aspects. So those are things that are taking your energy away right now, but if we remove them, then we can have more energy to put into your goal of going pro. So elimination is really the name of the game. But sometimes there are aspects of your life that are high priorities and you can't really remove them, but you can manage them better so that you waste less energy on them, like school. So for instance, you could pay attention in class instead of wasting your time in class, like talking to your friends and just not paying attention at all, basically. You can finish your homework at school. So if you log in and actually study at school, then you don't have to study at home. You can also try to not fall behind on school, so you actually keep up with all of the homework and all of the tests, so you don't get stressed out right before the test starts. You can also have more focused study sessions. So when you study, you can also use study techniques that are more efficient than other study techniques like spaced repetition and all that. Another way you can limit how much energy you waste on school is by stop getting A's. Stop getting A grades. Like, it's gonna be difficult to be an A student while also trying to go pro at the game. They basically have these two major goals that are both taking energy. And the more time you spend on getting, A's instead of B's or C's, the less time and energy you have to put into Fortnite Competitive. And I'm not suggesting this, I'm just saying you could do this to limit how much energy you spend on school. But if you get worse grades, then you're probably gonna have to deal with your parents. And that is maybe also one thing that you have to do. Now, I've already made a whole distractions course inside Fortnite Academy, and I didn't want to make an hour-long video again. So if you want to limit distractions, then you have to check this out in the time management tab inside Build to Clutch. But I wrote down a list of all of the lessons I talked about in that course. So I compared distractions to monsters. Monsters will take your time and energy away from your goals. So things like school is a very big monster. Other goals, they will take so much energy away from you. Social media and technology. So if you have a phone addiction or you're just like spending all of your time watching YouTube videos just like this, boys. And then there's bad habits, there's thoughts and emotions that can be distracting. We have distracting relationships and a distracting environment. Now, before I showed you this graph where we use our available energy to build certain results. But the thing we don't talk about here is time. And time is a big factor, right? So we also need to talk about time management. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. Now, typically we sleep about 8 hours of the 24 hours, so we have 16 hours remaining. But of those 16 hours, you might spend like 6 hours at school, right? And then you might have to spend another hour making homework for school. And it's probably gonna cost you like 2 hours to do things like eating, showering, doing chores, exercise, and maybe like dealing with other things in your life. So we only really have like 7 to 8 hours left. But of those 7 hours, now imagine you spend 2 hours watching YouTube videos. Then you only have 5 hours left to grind. So let's say you play Kovacs for 1 hour. Now you have 4 hours left to grind Fortnite Competitive specifically. And that is actually kind of a low amount. The point I'm trying to make is that we don't have unlimited amount of time. And we don't have unlimited amount of energy. If you use your time to do something, then it takes away less time to do something else. And then your time gets divided even more and more and more. So when you want to use this time block right here to grind Fortnite Competitive, then we need to protect this time. Because if there's other distractions in your life, like taking out the trash, going to the store, getting messages from friends, eating, etc., things like this, all of these random distractions, then it's gonna take away from your time that you should be grinding. And if you spend less time converting available energy into results, then you will get less results. And that is why I came up with something called time blocking in. So blocking in a block of time. And, it's kind of funny because this is also like locking in, right? But time blocks basically look like this. So maybe at midnight, you fall asleep and then you wake up at 8 a.m. So this time block right here from 24 to 08, we have sleep. And then the next time block is for school. So from 08 to 16 p.m. And then from 16 p.m. to 18 p.m. you can do something random, like taking out the trash and going to the store, like the things we discussed before. So this time block right here could be pretty useful if you have a very chaotic life, where you need to do a lot of random things. So if you need to do something random, just put it into this time block. And then the most important time block is from 18 p.m. to 24:00, let's say. And that is to grind. And you use this time to grind Fortnite Competitive. And every time there's some random distraction like this, your goal is to go back to grinding as soon as possible. So if you need to take out the trash all of a sudden, then just go do it as quickly as possible and get back on the grind. Like, you need a period of time where you just log in every single day. Because if you want to get consistent results, then you need to consistently put your energy and time into that goal. And on screen right now, you can see some of my daily routines that I've used before. And at this point, I want you to do the exact same thing. So get a piece of paper, it doesn't matter if it's online or just an actual piece of paper. Just get a piece of paper in front of you and write down on top daily routine. And then under there you have certain time blocks. So we have the time to the left and then the activity to the right. And then you could maybe also write down your goals. So let's say 500 push-ups and 10 scrims. Those were my daily goals. Now we did all of this to use our available energy and our time to convert into certain results. But you need to know what type of result you actually want. So what result do you want? You have to write it down and be very clear about the result that you want. Because your end goal might be to go pro in this game. But I don't think you can be locked in forever. Sometimes you just need to lock in for a certain amount of time, where your priorities might shift a little bit, so maybe at one point your relationships are less important than Fortnite Competitive. And this sounds crazy, but it could be the truth. You might even sometimes sacrifice your health for Fortnite Competitive. That's not always recommended, but you know, I've sacrificed both of these things before, because I was so locked in with grinding Fortnite Competitive. But it would be best if you just had a very specific milestone, like this, getting your first earnings. So you can just say, for the next 2 weeks, I'm just locking in to get my first earnings. And that is how inside your head you justify this time block that you're sacrificing every single day to grind for a certain result. Like, you need to know the result that you're actually working towards. When you have all of these things in place, so you have a daily routine that is in alignment with your priority list, then you're gonna get a lot more results. And just know, because you're using so much of your energy to create a certain result, it could be very tiring. You could become very tired because of this. So if you lock in for too long, you can experience burnout. Burnout is basically when you just run out of energy. But if you do habits like exercising and eating clean and drinking loads of water, then it becomes possible to grind for an extended amount of time. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then please can you like, subscribe, and comment WVODs or W. It will only take you like 15 seconds. And if you're interested, you might want to check out this video as well. Now keep grinding, boys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.